Over the last week, we've gotten 2 new videos talking about the Pokemon that are making their appearance in the Scarlet and Violet DLCs, the Teal Mask and the Indigo Disc. I want to go ahead and talk about all the returning Pokemon as well as some of the new Pokemon making their appearance in these DLCs. On the screen, you can see all the Pokemon that were previously revealed before these last 2 videos that we got. As you can see, I've labeled one DLC trailer / website. This was the initial release trailer where we got to see the legendaries that were revealed for the game, as well as the Nintendo Direct that happened in June. You can see that there's not a lot of Pokemon. Blue is the DLC trailer, and green is the Nintendo Direct. The Pokemon that have a black box around them are the ones that are new to Pokemon, and the ones that have a red box around them are Pokemon that have not yet debuted on the Switch, so those are a pretty big deal in my opinion. So we're going to talk about both DLCs separately. So first we're going to talk about the Teal Mask. I'm going to show you a picture of a Pokemon, for example, this Ekans. And since Ekans is shown in the trailer, we can assume that its entire evolutionary line is in the trailer as well. That's the logic we're going to use going forward. So since we see Ekans here, Arbok is making it into the DLC as well. In the trailer, we also see Phantump and Trevenant, Cramorant, Clefairy, and Clefable. We see Poliwag, Poliwhirl, and Politoed. And finally, we get to the first new Pokemon revealed in the Teal Mask portion of the DLC, Dipplin. Now, Dipplin is a pretty cool Pokemon, I think. It's got a couple signature moves that we can exploit. And another interesting thing is that Applin, Appleton, and Flapple all appear in the Paldean Pokedex. So if you already have an Applin, you can just take it with you to the DLC and probably evolve it right away, unless it has a special evolution method. I think we can assume that since Flapple evolves from a tart apple and Appleton evolves from a sweet apple, I think there might be a candy apple item that we use to evolve our Applin into Dipplin. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Until then, that's speculation. In the trailer, we also see Swinub and Piloswine. We see Girder walking around. We see Chandelure. We see Kommo-o. We see Duskull in the Teal Mask portion of the DLC, and we see Dusknoir in the Indigo Disc portion of the DLC. We also see the terrestrialized form of Ogerpon. We can see that its mask becomes massive, the mouth opens, it grows some terra-crystallized horns. It's really interesting. It makes me wonder if it might gain defenses when it terrestrializes, but until the DLC comes out, we can't really know for sure. I want to point one more thing out, but this is going to be speculation. In the Teal Mask DLC, we see a couple Pokemon that have counterparts. For example, the C-Dot line is usually the counterpart Pokemon for the Lotad line. Usually they are version exclusives. Same thing with Phantump, the Phantump line, and the Pumpkaboo line. They are also usually version exclusives. So this makes me wonder if we might be seeing these as well as version exclusives inside the DLC. Anyways, now that we've gotten Teal Mask out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about the Indigo Disc. So the Indigo Disc, we see several Pokemon as well. We see Magmar, Magmortar, Dodrio, we see Oddish and Blossom, and then we get to our first brand new Pokemon. We see our Caledon, which evolves from Duraludon, which might be a little bit scarier now that it can use a Violite, which will bolster its defenses and make it a little bit bulkier and harder to knock out than it was before, but time will tell if this Pokemon will actually be any better now that it gains access to this item. Another thing I think that's important to know about our Caledon is the trainer that we see throwing it out into battle, Drayton. He is one of the Elite Four of the BB League, or the Blueberry Battle League, and the other 3 members of that are Lacey, Crispin, and Amaris, which makes me wonder if, since Drayton is using an evolution of an old Pokemon, if the other 3 could get some other special Pokemon of their own. Anyways, back to the Pokemon we see in the trailer. We see the entirety of the Tyrogue line, Rhyperior, we see Rhyhorn, Skarmory, Bastiodon, Rampardos. We also see Pikipek and Toucanon, which is actually a bigger deal than you might think, since this is their debut on the Switch. We see Inkay, Lapras, and Mandibuzz. We also see, officially, for the first time in-game, the normal form of Terapagos, and we find out that the initial form that we had seen before is actually the terrestrial form of Terapagos. So we'll just have to wait and see if they're 2 separate forms, or if one is a permanent form or just temporary. We also see the new Paradox Pokemon, Raging Bolt, and Iron Crown, which I think have fantastic designs. But it makes me wonder, since the website says these two Pokemon are making their appearance in the Indigo Disc, it makes me wonder if we might see Paradox Entei and Terrakion in the Teal Mask DLC. Throughout the trailer, we also see some Pokemon that have regional differences. We see a regular Tauros, we see a Lowland Sandslash, Exeggutor, and Graveler, which kind of makes me wonder if we're going to see all of the Alolan Pokemon in these games. Now, we can't know for sure. I'm going to go ahead and put the remaining Alolan Pokemon on the screen right now. Out of all of these Pokemon, Raichu, Diglett, Dugtrio, Meowth, Persian, Grimer, and Muck are already in the base game of Scarlet and Violet, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see these ones. I also wouldn't be surprised if we see Alolan Vulpix and Ninetales, since those are the counterpart Pokemon to Alolan Sandshrew and Sandslash, which would honestly only leave us with Alolan Rattata, Raticate, and Marowak, which makes me believe that they are probably also inside these games, but that's also just currently speculation. Let's talk about version-exclusive Pokemon again. We see Oddish and Blossom in the main trailer, and it has a version counterpart in the Blossom line. Same with Magmar. The Magmar line is usually a version exclusive to the Electabuzz line, so I kind of think we might see them inside this, but can't be quite certain. And one more thing I want to talk about. In this section of the DLC, we see Seal, Horsey, Alolan Exeggutor, and Rhyperior, all of which appeared in the DLC except for Horsey. So I kind of wonder if we might not be seeing Horsey, Seadra, and Kingdra, because it would be really weird for them to put it here, but not officially show it. Anyways, that's all for the Pokemon Presents trailer. Let's go ahead and look at the Pokemon Worlds trailer that we got. We are getting all of these starter or first partner Pokemon in the DLC, which I think is really cool. I think this is also really nice because some of these first partner Pokemon have already made their appearance in Scarlet and Violet through the Mightiest Raids. So this is another way you can get those Pokemon if you missed getting them in a Mightiest Raid. Another interesting thing to note is that for the Snivy and Tepig lines, this is their debut on the Switch. So since the Pokemon games have moved to the Switch, this is their first time that we've been able to get them in a game. So they're no longer trapped in Pokemon Home. Two other Pokemon made their appearance in this trailer, specifically Smeargle and Shaman. On screen now, you can see all of the Pokemon that are going to be returning in the Teal Mask DLCs. Currently, there are 65 Pokemon, new and old, returning, which I think is really cool. I'm thankful that we'll be getting some of these Pokemon back. And here are all of the Pokemon making their return or debut in the Indigo Disc DLC. There are a lot of Pokemon returning in the Indigo Disc, which makes me really happy. I'm probably the most excited, though, about the Pokemon that I've outlined in red on this image, since they're all debuting on the Switch for the first time, and that brings us one step closer to having every single Pokemon available to us on the Switch. What Pokemon do you hope can return inside the DLC? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Peace.